Okay, as long as this computer doesn't kunk out on us, we're going to start at 163, where we find out about Bran's past, and we're going to page 167. His family story would be short if he had his way. He caressed the curve of her spine. What would you like to know? The sign above the entrance says Turner Ranch, established 1907, which is a long time to be in the ranching business. We're one of the oldest ranches in the country that still is in existence, though according to my grandparents it was touch and go there for a few years. When for my great-grandparents during the dirty 30s when their neighbors lost their place. Did they buy up more land? Couldn't afford to. When things started to look up, they bought a couple of sections they found foreclosed, and the government wanted to recoup their losses, but it's been the same size since the start of World War II. So you've always known what you wanted to end up doing with your life. That was a tricky to answer. As a teen, he lashed out at his grandparents, threatening to sell the whole shooting match after they died. A pang of sadness punched him in the gut when he recalled the shock of his grandmother's face after he issued that selfish statement. Pearl Turner had just looked at him and said quietly, "This land is the only thing that will last forever." Brand swept his hand over Harper's back and absently-minded kissed the top of her head. "It's okay. I was just thinking like most ranch kids, part of me wanted to be the rebel, do something, anything other than be tied to this land until the day that I died, but the bigger part of me couldn't imagine doing anything else." "Did your parents feel the same way?" His body stiffened. Harper felt it, then lifted her head to look at him. "What?" Normally he breezed over this part of his family backstory because it wasn't exactly a secret, but the scandal about his birth had happened so long ago, and his grandparents had been so well respected in the community that only part of his lineage that mattered now was his last name. "You think I'm snoopy, don't you?" "Yep," he kissed her nose, "but that's okay. The truth is I don't have a clue who my dad was. My mom ran away from here the week after she turned 18. My grandparents never heard from her until she returned to Wyoming 5 years later carting a 6-month-old baby with her. She told them my father was out of the picture, and she named me Branford after her favorite bar in San Francisco." "Your real name is Branford?" "Weird as it is, at least it could have been shortened into something more normal, like Bran. I tell myself I could have been much worse, given that my mother turned into a total hippie." "I hear you. My mom claims that she came up with our names because of where we were conceived, but I suspected we were all named after the booze she started drinking when she got knocked up." Bran laughed softly. "I don't doubt my grandparents were happy that she'd given her out-of-wedlock child their last name, but you grew up on them, didn't you?" "It wasn't like they had a choice. Evidently my mother stuck around for a whole 2 weeks before she told her parents that they were animal murderers since she became a vegetarian, so she dumped me with them. My mother was an only child, and I suspect she'd been breaking my grandparents' hearts since the day she was born." Harper squeezed his arm in hope of... My eyes are playing tricks on me, and I should be wearing glasses. I'm sorry. Harper squeezed his arm in a show of sympathy. "Did she ever come back?" "Once, when I was about 4. I guess I didn't stay any more than 2 days. She died of a drug overdose a couple of years later. Without sounding crass, I can say my grandparents were relieved. There was always that fear that she'd try to take me away from them. I don't remember her at all." "Did your grandparents adopt you?" "No need to. After she died, in fact, it would have put the ranch in some kind of weird legal limbo, as far as the estate taxes, so their sole heir I inherited everything." "How old were you when they died?" "Grandpa died when I was 18. Grandma didn't last quite a year after he passed on." "I know she died of a broken heart." Harper kissed his chest. "I'm so sorry. Although it's sad, it's also sort of beautiful, too, to love someone that much that you would rather die than be without them." That was 63, 64, 65. Here's 66 and 67. "Worst year of my life was when both passed. I couldn't stand to be in the house without them in it. So the mature thing, I boarded it up and bought a trailer." Again Harper sweetly kissed the area above his heart, and it warmed something inside of him that is suspected to be long since dead. "Do you have any intention of ever living there again, or would it cost too much money to fix up?" Money, that was the one thing Brand had plenty of. After the lawyer had read the will and he spent the next week in a stupor, he had no idea his grandparents had squirreled away that much cash. He had no clue what the ranch had inherited was worth. It boggled his mind, and he was rich. At first he'd been tempted to buy. A brand new truck with all the bells and whistles, a fast foreign sports car, fancy new duds. He imagined how differently all the women in Muddy Gap would look at him. The pretty ones who never given the time of day, preferring to flirt with Hank, Kyle, Fletch, Devon, or the likes of Braxton. Hell, even bashful Eli had more chicks hitting on him than Bran Turner did. As a guy aware of his level of attractiveness to the opposite sex, Bran knew that he wasn't but ugly, yet he also knew that he hadn't been blessed with the same head-turning good looks as his buddies. So his way of thinking upon learning about his cash windfall, money was the great equalizer in dating arena and everywhere else. But a funny thing happened. With his intent to become a rich braggart flashing a wad of bills, he realized he had done nothing to earn that money. His inheritance had been entrusted to him, and he would be a fool to blow the legacy on an unimportant stuff like a custom-made boots and attempts to buy a girlfriend. Not even Bran's closest friends knew what he was worth. He had taken a chunk of the money and invested it in the stock market and bought more livestock. Even now he spent only the money he had to pay himself as a salary, and he lived that way below his means, way below. And his low-key lifestyle didn't scare the ladies off. In fact, he resided in a cheap, cramped trailer. Usually did the trick. The assumptions made about him were amusing. He didn't bother to try to change them. In 5 years, he doubled the profit from his expanded cattle operation, despite Les's continual arguments that Bran was always doing something wrong. Now Bran was once again at a crossroads, wondering if he should increase the size of the herd or let it ride another couple of years. Okay, on page 170 to the end of 171. Her eyes narrowed at him. I know that look, Bran. He blinked at her, total innocence. What look? The one that's questioning why I'm still putting in hours at Get Nailed when I'm making more money for you, or working for you. Woo, he dodged that bullet there. He had totally been eyeballing her. The thought did cross his mind, but I'm guessing you like painting fingernails and all that girly stuff. Harper gave him an annoyed huff. I like my customers, but the reason I won't leave Bernice high and dry is because she's the only one who would hire me after my mom ran off. Everyone else in this town pointed and whispered, acted like Bailey and I were a personal affront to them, wanting us to pay for our mother's sins. So my loyalty to Bernice doesn't have any bearing on me likely to do girl fingernail stuff. Getting covered in cow poop, horse poop, goat poop, and a mud on a daily basis should be enough proof for you. Man, he really stepped in it. He crossed to her as she slipped on her coat. I'm sorry I'm an idiot. Yes, you are. Bran smiled, wanting so badly to lay a big wet kiss on her, but he held back. Drive safe. See you tomorrow, boss. He was really starting to hate that word. On page 173, we find out that Bran and Renner went to school together, and now technically neighbors to Renner is fishing for information, which is their conversation lasts for several pages. They trade contact info, and Renner leaves and enters another character on page 209. Okay, so I guess we're going to go to 209. And you're going to get to read about them being friends and getting the lowdown on people if you pick up this book. Which, if I finish it tonight, it should be at the Candy Kitchen. So, oh good, I think this is going to be a short thing. We'll see. 209, Janie Fitzhugh, this woman, is the ex-wife, but to who? Harper believes that it's Bran's ex. So let's see here. Harper realized that not only was she staring, but she hadn't answered the question. Is it a whiskey, Coke? And the only reason I laughed is because I don't normally drink Coke alone, so you're welcome to join me. The invite seemed to shock the pixie chick, but grinned, I love to join you. She hoisted herself on the bar stool and thrust out her hand. I'm Janie Fitzhugh. Harper Masterson. I take it you're not from around here. Used to be a long time ago. Lifetime, actually. Her eyes clouded briefly and offered another deeply dimpled grin. Anyway, anything but a job comes for full circle, doesn't it? I'm back here for a job. Is it a temporary job? We'll see how it plays out. So Harper, please don't take this the wrong way, but why are you sitting by yourself alone in this dive? Take a guess. Man trouble? Partially. Don't think I'm some kind of unload my problems on a stranger freak, but every once in a while my life disappointed me today, and I thought I'd see Jack Daniels, and it would improve my attitude. Me and Jack go way back to Jack Daniels, the only man you can count on. Amen, sister. They clinked glasses. Okay, so you see that there's kind of a sister camaraderie going on, but as we find out, She is, did I mark this? Usually I mark where I want to stop and start, which is unusual. I guess I didn't mark this. On page 213, Harper had assumed that Bran had never been married, but she'd never thought to ask. Was that panic in Bran's eyes? Okay. If he didn't want to run into his ex, why didn't he just leave? What if he still had feelings for her? And on page 216, Bran caught movement out of the corner of his eye and turned to see Harper and his Harper whispering in Renner's ear. Renner smiled at whatever Harper had said, and she turned her head so their mouths were a kiss apart. They stared at each other for a beat or two as if sharing some secret, and then grinned. First of all, what was his Harper doing there? Second of all, when the hell had she gotten so freaking chummy with that smooth-talking blank? Bran had an overwhelming urge to punch Renner right in the kisser. Okay. Page 220. Now we're making some headway. Bran was on his feet. When the last chord twanged, he didn't even look at Renner. He just held out Harper's coat. "What do you want?" she demanded. "I'm taking you home." She swayed as she invaded his personal space. "You're not my boss right now, so I don't gotta go anywhere with you." "You're drunk." "Says who?" Almost on cue, she hiccuped. Bran grinned. "Says me. Now be a good girl and get your coat on." Her eyes narrowed in this choice word of girl. Renner put his hand on Bran's back and spoke to Harper. "That's my cue to leave now that I see that you're in good hands." "You're abandoning me?" she complained to Renner. "Yep, thanks for the dance, doll." He walked off. Smart man. Harper snatched her coat from Bran's hands and wouldn't let him help her put it on. She spun around, whapping him in the face with her hair as she sauntered off. He followed her outside, ignoring the pointed stares of the other bar customers. When it appeared that she intended to stumble the 2 blocks from home on her own, Bran stepped in front of her and hoisted her over his shoulder. He'd come back for his truck later. They were going to have this out right now. It's 2:20 and 2:21. Harper expresses to Bran why she is upset with him, how he treated her at the auction they went to, and how they come to an understanding of sorts. Skip to page 233. Okay, so it's branding day, and it started out early as everything else in the cattle business. Helpers on horses, ATVs, and pickups headed for the pastures to round up cattle. Anxious mama cows weren't happy to be separated from their babies, and by the corrals the din of the moos were deafening. Kinda reminds you of Yellowstone, just a side note. Harper was relieved to stay at the house and coordinate the food. She'd seen enough of the cows and calves up close and personal, and it appeared to Bran she had been plenty of help. Given the rainy weather the last few days, she'd been happy to see sunshine for branding and for the feast afterwards. Bran's neighbors had shown up, as well as his friends and even family members. He explained that other nearby ranchers staggered branding days, spreading them out for over the few weeks so they all could help one another. The long-held tradition in the community was one they all took seriously. He also assured her that the other women would come bearing food, so Harper set up tables under the big white canopy and organized everything she could possibly organize. She found herself at loose ends. That was 233, 234. Okay. It says go to page 238 now. Okay, now we're going to go with the ATVs, pickups, and horses trickled in from the field. Around the same time, wives, kids, girlfriends, and others showed up with heaping bowls of side dishes. Harper knew almost everyone. If they were surprised to see her acting the part of hostess at Turner's branding, they didn't mention it, and an achievement in itself in the small community. After the guys washed up, they dug in and like they've never seen food before. Harper had secretly suspected Bran was crazy for having her order 100 pounds of shredded beef and 50 pounds of shredded pork, but now she wondered if there would be enough. The weather was beautiful, the food was delicious, the beer was cold, everyone was having a great time. Even Bailey had driven out with her friend Amy. They hadn't stayed long despite the urging of the younger single cowboy for them to stick around into the bonfire. Both she and Bran mingled separately, but she sensed the gaze on her several times. Okay, all the time. It gave her a secret thrill to know that no one had a clue about their rapt attention because his eyes were hidden beneath dark sunglasses and his ever-present cowboy hat. Kinda like Rip. Just saying. Harper knew, though. Her skin prickled with awareness in anticipation of what he'd do to her when they were finally alone. Okay, so that was page 238. We're going to start at 247 now. Dusk fell and the guys headed home, complaining of aches and pains, comparing bruises, and branding was hard physical work. Not the branding part, but wrestling with the calves to the ground and holding them for the branding iron. Bran had his fair share of bruises. But Harper wasn't cuddled by his side. She'd taken it upon herself to put away all the leftovers, food, and clean it up. It wasn't something a hired hand would do. It was what a wife would do. Kind of like Beth and Rip from Yellowstone. Anyway, back to the book here. That's page 247. Now we're going to 249 through 250. Harper strolled out of the house after the guys left, wrapped up in a blanket, and stopped on the opposite side of the bonfire from where he sat. Hey, he said, hey, thanks for cleaning up. He finished his beer. It was a ton of work, but I appreciate it, and you can put the hours on your timesheet if you want. Her eyes narrowed. I didn't show up today as your hired hand, Bran. I'm here as your silence fell. As my what? He prompted. She sauntered forward as the woman who wants to keep her warm. Bran opened his arms. Come here, my woman, and snuggle up on my lap. A wide grin split her beautiful face, and she practically ran to him. She sat facing the fire, nestling the back of her head into his neck and draping her legs outside his. He tucked the blanket around her. Better? Mm-hmm. They watched the orange and yellow flames dancing up a long chunk of wood as the embers glowed red. After a bit, she sighed. There was something mesmerizing about a bonfire, isn't there? There's something mesmerizing about you. Bran, can I make a confession? Okay. I broke into your grandparents' house today. Well, technically I didn't break in because the door wasn't locked, but Lainey and I got into talking and we both were curious, so we went in for just a little bit. Any anger he expected didn't surface. He didn't say anything because he didn't know what to say. Are you mad? It says go to page 250. He brushed his lips over her temple. No, I guess I'm figuring you're going to chew me out for letting it sit empty. It's a cool house, much bigger on the inside than I imagined. It would take a lot of money to get it updated, so I do understand why the repairs might seem daunting, but it's where you grew up. It just seems to be waiting for you. Waiting for me how? Waiting for you to settle down and decide to make it your home again. Most people never have that kind of chance. Such a sweet, romantic notion from a woman who defined practical. It made his heart ache to hear Harper's sentimental side and realize how she longed for a home of her own. Once again, he was at a loss for words. Okay. Page 255. We're making progress now. Okay. Okay, it says, Bran stops by her other job, Get Nailed, where she does nails. Start reading after Rose. After Rose and Harper was cleaning up her station, she looked up. The doorbell chimed. Her heart did the swoop, flip, roll thing at seeing Bran just inside the door. He seemed ill at the ease amid all the girly stuff, so she met him halfway. Hey, what brings you by? Need a manicure? He snorted with disdain. Like that'll ever happen. I was on my way to get some stuff in Rollins and wondered if you wanted to ride along. Stuff, she repeated. What kind of stuff? All the usual, the ranch stuff. Silence fell. She couldn't figure out the impromptu trip was business or personal errand, but part of her didn't want to press him or to define it, because she seemed happy to see him. Might make a lovesick fool, but she missed the rugged cowboy during the hours she wasn't working with him on the ranch. If his expression was any indication, questioning his motives would put him on the defensive. She smiled. Sure, I could use a change of pace. Sure, got great timing. I just finished up and was about to close down. Need any help? No, but I have to lock the back door. Harper cut through the salon and first checking to make sure all the appliances were shut off the back room. She slid the deadbolt and clicked the lock in the heavy steel door. When she turned around, Bran was right there. And my nose is wanting to run. Sorry. I didn't want to do this in full view of the windows in case someone was peeking in. Do what? This. Bran sealed his mouth over hers. The kiss was warm and sweet, thoroughly mind-blowing in a way that bellied its tenderness. He didn't touch her anywhere besides her lips, but Harper felt the kiss from head to toe, as if her body was body to body, soul to soul, completely naked. Lord have mercy, she'd fallen hard for this man. Okay. It says, read until page. They spend quality time together, and start again on page 265. Okay. Where do I start in on page 265? Okay, they grab a dinner at the Cattleman's Club. Okay, it says go to page 267 at this point. Okay, they're grabbing dinner at the Cattleman's Club. And I don't see a mark over on 266. Is that right? Yeah, it is. At 267, read at, no, this was Harper. This was Harper, his Harper. They were beyond typical date behavior. He'd seen her covered in manure. He'd seen her wearing nothing at all. He'd seen her angry and aroused and determined to be exhausted. He knew her, damn it, straight down to the bone. They were beyond this trivial stuff. Yes, he knew her because he was head over heels in love with her. Almost as if she sensed his realization, she pushed him to move, scooted out of the booth as soon as he stood, and sat across from him. Was it something I said? I did put deodorant on before I left the house. Don't go getting your boxers in a twist, Bran. I'd like to look at your face when I talk to you. We don't seem to be doing a lot of talking. Harper cocked her head. Why is that? We never run out of things to talk about on the ranch. We're mostly talking about work stuff, he grinned, or getting busy. Since we've already done that, and we are going to sit here, are we just going to stare at each other? Bran reached out and touched her cheek. That ain't such a hardship for me, being that you're so beautiful and you take my damn breath away. I'm trying to see where we go to. On page 268. Her eyes softened. I like the sight of you. Which side is that? Sweet and romantic. It was time for Bran's turn to blush. So is it considered romantic if... Oh, they get more romantic. So they have a romantic moment that you have to read to find out about. 269. A woman passed by their table enough that the ends of her shirt nearly dragged through Harper's salad. The woman stopped, walked backwards, keeping her back to Bran, and said, Harper? Becca, hey, how are you? Good, I'm surprised to see you in Rollins. Did you have enough of that crap-hole muddy gap? Bran studied the way Harper's smile froze and her facial muscles tightened. He never seen her react to anyone that way. No, I'm in town having dinner. Alone? Darling, that's just plain pathetic with the way men used to fall at your feet. She's not alone. Becca whirled, nearly whapping Harper in the face with her jagged, beaded ends of her silk shirt. Her eyes narrowed as she took Bran's measure. Evidently she didn't find him lacking, because she smiled coyly. Why, ain't you a handsome one? I never knew Harper had such good taste. He saw Harper stab her fork into her greens repeatedly. The woman held out her hand. Becca Viance. Bran Turner, how do you do, my Harper? Okay, now where do we've introduced her. Says keep going. Okay. The stout woman actually flipped her hair over her shoulder. We used to compete in beauty pageants together. I was runner-up to Miss Sweetgrass contest. She shot Harper a haughty look, and I did win the talent competition in that one, didn't I, Harper? Harper blinked slowly. A cute wrinkle appeared between her eyebrows as if she was deep in thought. Honestly, I've not been in so many beauty pageants and contestants, Becca. I'm afraid I don't remember them all. First time he ever seen Harper act cocky. Becca's lips flattened. I remember, and so will everyone else when they hear me sing tonight. I thought that's why you shown up here. To hear you sing? No, I came for the steak. I meant you came to enter the contest. Tonight's the winner for not only for the cash but advances to next round. Becca flashed her teeth at Brandon and then Harper. It doesn't appear as if you need the money like you used to. Hell, the woman could have just called him a sugar daddy to his face and Harper a blank. You've got it all wrong, lady. Harper grabbed his hand and squeezed. Now, Bran, honey, there's no use to trying to pull this one over on Becca. She just knows me all too well. Her eyes begged him to play along. So, how's that sugar pie? Becca crossed her arms over her chest and waited. Like I know what winning a contest without any real competition isn't much of a challenge. He likes seeing this nasty side of this beauty queen. Okay. We're going to go to 274, it says. But basically, there's a lot of banter between all three characters. And I'm going to skip reading it. I'm going to make you read the banter. 274. How could he convince her to stay in Muddy Gap with him instead of leaving with her sister? Especially when he didn't understand why Harper felt like she had to go anywhere Bailey went. Bailey wasn't a child. Granted, Bran didn't have siblings, but wasn't this the ideal time for Harper to let Bailey go? Make her sister stand on her own, just like Harper had been forced to do years? Somehow he knew pointing that out would have the opposite reaction that he intended, no matter how tactfully he phrased it, so he was back to square one. How to convince Harper to stay with him in Muddy Gap. Tell her that you love her. Right. Tell her you have a boatload of money and you can take care of her so she won't need to be finding about another job. Somehow he didn't think that would matter to her either. She was stubborn, independent, determined to do things her own way. Kind of like Beth Dutton and My New Attitude. Well, he could be stubborn too. They would have to have a serious talk about their future tomorrow, whether she liked it or not. That was 274 and 275. Harper did win the contest of the karaoke. 280. Les didn't acknowledge. Okay, the hand that got injured, remember, his name was Les. Harper was hired to take Les's spot. So there's a little bit of animosity when Les tries to come back for his job. Les didn't acknowledge her, so what are we doing today? Moving the bulls into the north pasture. We've got to double check that fence and gates are secure. Why? Harper asked Bran. But Les jumped in to answer before Bran could. Because we don't want our bulls getting out and impregnated by Henderson's cows. Don't make the Henderson none too happy either, since half the herd in their south pasture, which borders ours, is full of purebreds. They lose a whole crap load of money if the cows ain't purebred, but they are sired by one of the mongrel bulls. My bulls ain't mongrels, but they ain't caliber that Henderson are known for. But they are your neighbors, right, when they know better than to put such valuable purebred stock in a pasture where cows might be sullied by your low-class bulls? Bran laughed. He gazed at her with pure warmth that caused a funny tickle under her breastbone. You sure have a way of seeing things differently, Harper. She smiled behind her cup. That said, if the bulls do get out, the financial responsibility falls on Bran's shoulders. Some neighbors wouldn't push it, but the Hendersons would. Meaning what? She said to Bran, but naturally Les answered. Meaning the Hendersons require us to buy the contaminated purebred stock to the tune of $1,000 and a calf. Harper looked at Bran. Seriously? Bran shrugged. Ain't nothing I can do except try to keep the bulls penned up and hope the Hendersons have already bred their cows, he grinned, or hope they've put their heifers in the section. Nothing more skittish than a heifer going through her first mating cycle. Some of the bulls just give up. And let's see. It says go to page 285. The dream that she had about Bran standing behind her. We're not going to go to page 285. I want you to read some about this romance between that they have and see how Les, he's not very supportive of Harper and Bran romance. Yeah, you're going to have to read how he's not supportive. Okay. Read at the bottom where Les is advising Bran that Harper is trouble. Les speaks out of fear of losing his job to Harper, so basically he's planting seeds of doubt so Bran will lose interest in Harper. Page 287. Okay. Bran exited his truck, angry about the conversation. Over the years, Les had overstepped his bounds plenty of times, and not always when it came to ranch work. He chalked it up to being a generation gap, since Les was old enough to be his father. Now he wondered about the bouts of hostility weren't something else. Footsteps sounded behind him. Les wasn't going to let it go. Mark my words, boy, she'll get herself either in trouble and you'll have to marry her out of sense of duty. She'll drop back a couple more kids, ensuring that she has plenty of guilt and blood money for years to come. Then she'll take you for everything you're worth, and the divorce, your butt. You'll end up alone anyway. With that comment, Les went too far. Bran whirled around on him, pushed him back, snarling, "Shut your effing mouth, or I will." Les caught him up on the grill in Bran's truck and winced. Crap, in his fury, Bran had forgotten that the man was recovering from an injury. "God blessed, Les, I didn't mean. See, she's already tied you up in knots and you ain't even thinking straight. I'll bet she questioned why you even need me around. When I've been a constant in your life since your grandparents died, me. I've only been the one who's cared about you a long damn time. You remember that." So he's, like I said, there's those seeds of doubt. Meanwhile, Harper's, wait a minute, 287. Okay. Meanwhile, Harper's sister Bailey informs her, like their sister Liberty, she's joining the army. Harper is upset with this decision. Harper leaves Bailey taking the car, leaving the truck, that is Bran's, behind. She needed to sort out life in general, from Bailey not going to college to Bran. So that's going to skip us to page 296. And we start with, we're going all the way to page 303, it says. Bran, just another situation she had no idea how to handle. She loved him, but she suspected he'd thrown himself into their affair because she was leaving. Although he hadn't admitted it, she suspected he'd never gotten up the courage to show love to the past lovers, to make kind of sexual demands of them that he made of her. She loved every minute, especially when Bran had no issue with showing her his sweet side. Good Lord, that man could be incredibly sweet. It made her heart ache. So how could she spring it on him that she had nowhere to go? The last thing she wanted was Bran's pity. Neither did she want him to feel obligated to help her out. The job she signed up for was temporary, so was their relationship. But they'd become friends as well as lovers, and if Harper had just happened to show up at his place and he was just happening to ask her what was wrong, there'd be no harm in telling him, would there? No. Mind made up, she pulled back on the highway. Her cell phone vibrated. She ignored it, turned off. The Lawson Ranch loomed ahead. Harper missed Celia, but her friend was dealing with her own issues, which strengthened Harper's determination not to underburden herself. Janie Fitzgerald's voice popped into her head. "Anytime you need anything, call me." Harper doubted that Janie was being serious. The fish-shaped mailbox signifying the turn-off to Bran's place didn't bring the sense of relief that it usually did. She put down the rutted, muddy trucks when wishing she'd driven the truck. This time of year, reminding her why the part of this country had been christened Muddy Gap. When she reached the house and noticed Bran's truck wasn't around, Les was meandering from the big barn. Briskly, he said, "I was hoping you'd bring back my pickup." She offered him a fake smile. "I can't very well drive both vehicles at once, now can I? Where's Bran? I need to talk to him." Les' eyes gleamed. "You don't want to mess with him today, Harper. Maybe you ought to run home." Whatever his territorial instinct she had about Bran was pushed front and center. "Where is he?" "How about if you tell me what you want to talk to him about, and I'll pass along the message." "Miserable little man. Yeah, why don't you go ahead and break the news to Bran that I love him, and even though my sister wouldn't have joined the army without telling me, and we were moving according to my plan, if I'd still feel like I was having a piece of myself, a big piece with him." When she didn't answer right away, Les snapped his finger. "Sorry, I bet you're here to ask about your last paycheck." "Paycheck? Wow." Les really thought she was a money-grabbing witch, didn't he? Her contemplation of Les' motives were putting her in place, varnished when she heard the familiar sound of Bran's truck barreling up the drive. He parked in his usual spot, hopped out, skirting the front end. Her heart turned over. The man looked good. He always looked good, but he didn't grant his usual, "I'm imagining you being with me" grin. Nor did his eyes soften when, in fact, his eyes went hard and cold. He glanced at her car. "Where's the truck?" At my house, she's thinking, desperate to talk to you. Bran, what's wrong? I'll tell you what's wrong. Les barged right between them. You didn't do your job checking the fences. The bulls got out, all of them. Me and Bran spent all yesterday trying to get the bulls out of the Hendersons' pasture, and we've got to head back there today to finish up. All the blood drained from her face. I can't believe you were so stupid. Les, that's enough, Bran snapped. Bran was boiling mad, livid like she'd never seen him, and the truth of it was she couldn't blame him. She hadn't paid attention. A whole section of fencing could have been down, and she would have been trying to find her way in the fog. It had been an honest mistake. Didn't he see that? No, she doubted he could see anything through the red haze surrounding him. Harper studied Bran's face. Upon closer examination, he didn't look like $1,000,000. Dark circles discolored the skin beneath his eyes. His mouth and jaw were in a grim line. His posture was 100% closed off from her, probably for good. She screwed up big time. He'd given her job when she needed it, and how had she repaid him? By making a stupid mistake and costing him tens of thousands of dollars. No way could Harper let him tell him how the world she'd known had crumbled without Les around to remind Bran what an idiot she was, and she doubted that he would ever forgive her. She whispered, I'm sorry. You should be, Les sneered. Bran didn't defend her this time. Les said she was asking about her last check. Again, Bran didn't give her the inscrutable cowboy stare. Don't cry is what she's thinking. Would it salvage her pride if she kept the business like? No, but it was all she had. If you could just tell me when I can pick it up at the accountant's. I'll drop the damn check off at your house, Harper. And what the hell are you going to do with it when I'm not there? Stay calm. Just send the damn thing to my address. The post office will forward it to me. Fine, he rubbed his temple. When are you leaving? I'm not so sure. So you'll be wanting these here. She tossed him the keys, and he caught them with one hand. Your truck is parked in the front of the house. He gave her a cool appraisal before he pushed off from where he had been leaning against the pickup. He spoke to Les. Come on, we've got to get a move on and fix this mess with the Hendersons. No goodbye, no nothing. On wooden legs, Harper climbed in her car and drove off, without any idea where she was going to go. Had she really come just for her check? Jesus, that ticked him off. He waited until her piece of crap car was gone from the highway before he stomped to the barn. Where are you going? Les demanded. Away from you so I can think, is what he's thinking. Bran didn't respond. Livid and more flustered than he cared to admit, he spun around and headed back the way he'd come, straight to his truck. Ignoring Les's shouts, he tore out, spewing gravel and curse words. Okay. It says keep going. Okay. Darn it, contrary to Les's opinion, Bran hadn't blamed her for the bulls getting out. It had been an ongoing problem, and he hadn't dealt with it because it was too long, and he played the part of the laid-back rancher. No more would he let his clueless, less than neighborly neighbors dictate a stupid policy that no one in their right mind would agree to. No more. He would pin Stan Henderson's butt to the wall, but not when he was in such an awful mood. He parked and got back to work, digging the post holes, a new fence. Physical hard labor exhausted his body and drained his brain, and that always helped him deal with difficult situations in the past. That's all Harper is to you, another difficult situation to handle? No, Harper was everything to him, everything. He absolutely was sick about what had happened the minute he seen her car go by. As he'd been working in the pasture closest to the house, he hauled butt back to the ranch. He intended to wrap her up in his arms, then drop to his knees right in front of the mud and tell her that he loved her, begged her to not go, ask her to marry him and stay with him forever. But that confession wasn't something he wanted to do in front of Les, not because he was embarrassed to admit how he felt about her, but because Harper deserved better. Yeah, and then how's that going to end up on your worst behavior? Infuriated with himself, he jammed the shovel into the ground, then forced leaning into the work until he was almost horizontal, spraying soil everywhere with the metal tip clenched into the soil object. Darn it, he must have hit a rock. He dropped to his knees and reached in the hole. Definitely a rock, but what the heck? His fingers plucked the object out of the hole, and metal gleamed in the sun. For crying out loud. He'd been so focused on moving the rock he hadn't noticed his cell phone had fallen into the hole, and he pulverized this stupid thing. Effing awesome. Now he was supposed to get in touch with Harper. With her leaving a phone call only away, could he contact her? Get in your dang truck and go after her. Fix it. Make it right now. No. As much as he needed to cool off before he talked to the Hendersons, that went double for how he needed to present himself when he tracked Harper down. He had a handle on what he was going to say to her. For once in his life, he wasn't running off half-cocked. This was too darn important. Brand swore, and he threw the mangled phone in the bed of his pickup. He pounded the shovel into the ground until he coated in sweat, and back his arm ached. The damn stubborn rock just wouldn't budge. Hopefully that wasn't a sign of things to come. Okay. So, on page 303, we find out Harper is upset and left town. Her other boss who's Bernice, is calling her and wants her to get back to her senses somewhat. It says, read a little bit about that. So, we're going to start with the phone call between Harper and Bernice. Hey, Bernice, what's up? My curiosity, I suppose. Bernice coughed. Bailey's called me 4 or 5 times wondering if I had heard from you. I don't think she believed me when I said I don't know where you're at. She seemed pretty upset. A whoosh of air echoed from Bernice's exhaled. Look, it probably ain't my business, but did you two have a fight or something? Or something, Harper said dryly, but to be honest, I'm avoiding her until I get a better handle on the situation. I understand completely. Anything I can do? No, real sweet of you, though, to ask, Bernice. I appreciate it. Well, I ain't made no secret of the fact that I worry about you, Harper. Care about the two of you as if you were my own kid. Harper's eyes watered as she managed a hoarse thanks. Anyway, I'm calling for you my own reasons. I gotta take Bob to the doctor in Cheyenne. I'm scheduled to have a beauty barn open. I canceled my clients, expecting I'd have a big shipment from the beauty supply store in Colorado this afternoon. And someone's got to be here to sign for it, otherwise they won't deliver, since I paid the damn rush shipping charges. Say no more. I'll be back in town and open it by noon. A pause. Back in town? Where are you? Casper, you're not at Brand Turner's place? In her head, she thinks I wish. No, since Les is all healed up, I'm done working for Brand. So I'm looking for a full-time job. I'll be back around 5 tomorrow with a bottle of whiskey and 2 glasses so you can tell me what the heck is going on in your life that you are running. Tears surfaced again. I'd like that. Good, thanks, Harper. Bernice hung up. Harper set aside the classified ads. So much for filling out job applications first thing in the morning. She clicked off the TV and the light. She stared at the patterns in the acoustic ceiling tiles, listening to the clacking of the heater register for the longest time before she finally drifted off. She dreamt of him anyway, foolish girlish dreams that had no basis in reality, in her life or anyone's that she'd ever known, sappy Disney dramas that always turned out perfect in the end. The fact was, Brand wouldn't barrel up her crappy rental house in his dirty pickup, confess his undying love for her. They'd drive off into the sunset together. Another thing her silly dreams got wrong, she wasn't looking for a man to rescue her or take care of her. She wanted a man to love her, for who she was on the inside, not the outside. She hoped Brand was that man. He might still be. But she was too emotionally raw right now to find out, so maybe it was childish. The next day, she hid her car behind the beauty barn so neither Brand nor Bailey would see it. Let's see here. A new business opportunity comes Harper's way on page 314. Today, when you showed me the outfit and told me how much you paid for it, it occurred to me that mixing vintage clothes and shoes, accessories with new clothes, shoes, and accessories would be a unique angle for the retail store. And I concurred, Renner said. You got my vote, but again, why me? I don't have a degree in marketing or business management. I'm not qualified. Renner tipped his head, studying her from beneath the brim of his black Stetson. There's more to running a business than having a piece of paper framed on your wall says that you passed some class. I ain't saying this because I'm some freaky kind of stalker, but I've watched you. When I came into the nail salon, you went out of your way to make me feel comfortable. Here in the bar, you know everyone. Everyone likes you. I've heard them say some nasty family business you had to overcome in this small town, and it appears to me that you have. It ain't easy dealing with people from all walks of life, and from what I've seen, you excel at it. When Janie told me you're mad at sales skill and experience working in the Western retail, in my mind, you're more than qualified for this job, and you're perfect. I'd love to have you as part of my team. So Janie and Renner wants Harper to run the retail store. Okay. There's a lot to do with that in there, so I want you to read it. I like the talk that she has with Janie, though, about Bran. And, let me see if I can find it really quick here. Okay, so Les is back at work. Les doesn't like me, I don't like him, and he's willing to say nasty stuff in front of me behind my back and Bran's face to keep me out of the picture. It seems Bran believes Les over me, so it doesn't really matter. And Janie finished for her, in love with him? Yeah, but I don't know if he feels the same, so find out. Harper shook her head. He thinks that I'm leaving, and I just can't say surprise. I'm sticking around. Part of me thinks that this relationship had the intensity because of the expiration date. Okay. You're wrong. Boom Boom can be intense, but it's not half as intense as love. Here's my advice. If he loves you, he'll come after you. He'll fight for you. He won't let you go. That's what happened between you and Abe. He let you go without a fight. Janie rubbed her skin between her eyes. He didn't know me well enough to understand that's what I wanted. You saying he didn't love you? No, Abe loved me, and he covered all his bases. He talked the talk, but he didn't walk the walk. Know what I mean? He said the words because he thought you wanted to hear them. Precisely. Don't let that happen, Harper. If you and Bran truly love each other, then you should know exactly how you feel that way, and he should be able to put it into words. And then he should know how to act on it. Then Janie was all business again. Now here's what we need to accomplish this week. For the next Harper's head spun. So when Janie suggested they continue the discussion in her trailer at Split Rock, Harper was so amped up she doubted she'd get a wink of sleep tonight no matter where she laid her head. Okay. Page 320, 321. Came by to get the truck. Yep, Les needs it. Les? Oh, yeah, right, you're a hired hand. The guy Harper replaced. She hunched her shoulders. I'm surprised Harper didn't give you the ride into town. Why? Harper doesn't work for me anymore. Oh, she's not staying with you at the ranch? What the heck? Why would she think that? No. Bailey, the sister, had yet to meet his eyes as she picked her at her cuticles. Huh. So you haven't seen her either? Either? Not since the day before yesterday. An uneasy feeling slithered up his spine. When was the last time you saw her? Same. It took a second for that to settle in. What's going on? Her gaze finally connected with his, as defiant as he expected. Why do you assume it's something that I did? Because Harper would do anything for you. Hell, she's done everything for you. So if you two had a fight, I'm putting the blame squarely on you. You don't even know me, Bailey retorted. Exactly, but I do know Harper, so why don't you tell me what happened? Exactly, I do know Harper, so why don't you... Okay. Bailey's bravado fled and deflated like a balloon. Harper was really upset when I told her I joined the Army. When? I leave for basic training in 5 days. No, when did you tell her? The last morning I saw her. I take it Harper didn't want you to join the Army? She didn't know that I joined. Bran felt Bailey's words like a hoof to the belly. If that reaction, how must Harper feel? Like everything that she'd done for Bailey hadn't mattered, like she didn't matter. Gosh darn it. He glared at the self-centered teen, wondering if she had any idea how deeply she cut her sister. You didn't think enough of her? I screwed up. I get that, okay? I can't. God, I have no freaking idea where she's at. Bran blew out an impatient breath. You haven't heard from her at all? No, I have called everyone, Bernice, Celia. I even called our sister Liberty to try to get in touch with her, but Harper's not answering her phone. Can you blame her? No. Have you tried to call her? My phone ended up being busted about 2 hours after the last time I saw her, so I have no idea if she tried to get in touch with me or not. His heart nearly stopped. What if Harper couldn't answer her phone? What if right now she was lying in a ditch somewhere alone, hurt, or worse? He exploded as much anger as from fear. I swear to goodness, if anything happens to her because you bothered to pick up that phone to check. I'm not an idiot, she snapped back. I called around. No woman fitting her description had been admitted to the hospital or any clinic in Rollins, Laramie, Cheyenne, or Casper. Well, that's an effing relief. Bran paced to the sidewalk and back. What does she normally do when she gets upset like this? I don't know, Bailey practiced wailing. It's so surreal. I've never seen her act like this. She just never leaves like our mom did. Okay. She packed a bag with her car and left. That's it? She didn't say anything? And I should have seen this coming. I should have known. Why? What did she say to you when she last saw her? Nothing. I stood by and let Les run roughshod over her when I should have drove away after her. Thought binding my time was the mature thing to do. What an effing moron he feels like. What did you do to her? Bailey stomped over, invading his personal space. Harper's disappearing as much as your fault as mine. So they're both feeling at the blame game at this point, and Bran's finally realizing how much Harper means to him. The question is he going to do anything about it? So, Harper overnight stay at Split Rock compound had stretched into 2 nights. Her phone stopped ringing on the second day. She wasn't sure if it was a good sign or not. So had Bran been there, had he spoken to Bailey, or he just driven off without a word? The lights were on in the living room, which meant Bailey had returned home. Taking a deep breath, she opened the door. Instead of Bailey remaining aloof, or acting as Shirley launched herself at Harper and sobbed, I'm so sorry, so sorry, I've been so worried. I know you're mad at me, and if I had to do it all over again, it's all right. You've never taken off like that before. So that's his little sister and sister talk here, where they have to get through it. Page 330. I really hope you pick up this book and read it. It's got some really great points. I was going to read most of this stuff to you, but honestly, it's late at night. This computer's been acting up, and I want to go see the end of Yellowstone, Season 3. Okay. Let's see. One day later. This is how words can get twisted and thoughts and things can get twisted. They cleared the first gate when Les tossed out, I heard Harper's living with Rainier Jackson. Bran hit the brakes so hard they both lurched into the dash. His head whipped towards Les. What the hell did you just say? That your temporary hired hand, Les made quotes in the air that matched his sarcastic intonation, is living with Rainier Jackson. Getting hooked with that bullhorn couldn't have ripped a bigger hole in his gut. And how do you know this? Heard it from Betty. Guess it ain't a big deal. Ain't like Harper's hiding it either. It was a big deal as far as Bran was concerned. He looked out the window, his hands tightened on the steering wheel, pure frustration. He had no idea that she was still living in Muddy Gap. Every time he would go by the beauty barn, it seemed closed. And now it was unbelievable. And she thinks probably that he doesn't care in his mind. So, let's see here. Les is telling him that he's better off. He's taking it like, what's that supposed to mean? And that's when he's finally putting 2 and 2 together. And he's going like, you know nothing about Harper, let alone how yet you felt entitled to pass judgment on her at every opportunity. If I didn't know any better, I'd say you were jealous of her. Like hell. You know Harper was a great hired hand, took direction better than you ever thought of doing. When a mean glint entered Les's eyes, you can even think of spewing some smart aleck remark on how well she directed herself, and I would pop you one in the mouth, old man. We're not going to cover everything that Bran says. He's a little bit blunt, like Rip. Okay. 332. So he doesn't fire him, but he gives him a good talking to. And it says, are you going to hire her back and bring her back here so you won't need me anymore? Les, if I convince Harper to give me another chance, as sure as heck, she won't be around as a hired hand. She'll be around as his wife. Okay. So he goes to the compound, so to speak, and tries to find Harper Masterson, which is Harper. And he's having a hard time getting in. I want you to read that. And finally, she comes out, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Why are you here, Bran? Harper asked. Because I heard a rumor that you were still in Muddy Gap. It wasn't a rumor, as you can plainly see. There's a second part of that rumor, which is that you're living with Rainier Jackson. Is that true? I'll wait all GD day for your answer if I have to. Fine, I'm living here. Why? Rainier offered me something that you didn't. What is it that he can offer you? Money? Her jaw dropped. Let me tell you something, sweetheart. I've got more money than he does, a crap ton more. I can buy and sell him twice over. I just don't advertise it. Harper continued to gap at him as if he lost his mind. Maybe he had. He couldn't seem to stop his mouth from running unchecked. Harper, if you were looking for a man to take care of you, why didn't you just ask me why you're looking at me? Goaded beyond her control, Harper placed her palms on his chest and shoved him as hard as he could. You pompous ass. I'm not looking for a man to take care of me. I'm looking for someone to believe in me. I'm looking for someone to give me a chance and see me beyond Harper Masterson, beauty queen, or Harper the college dropout, or Harper the nail technician, or Harper the hired hand. He shook his finger at her. I never put those labels on you, and you damn well know that. You did that all by yourself, so tell me what can Jackson give you that I can't? A permanent job. What? I'm living here with Janie Fitzhugh. Rainier hired me to work with the resort. But he and Janie are giving me more than just a job. They're giving me a chance to live my dream. Which is what exactly? You don't have a clue what this opportunity means to me. Well, put it into words, Harper, he warned. Then tell me in your own words. Fine, you were excited about a new job. This isn't about any new job. Don't you think I know that? No, I don't think you know me at all, Bran. I do too know you. Name one thing that's important to me. Having a job is important to you. Name one thing you like about me that doesn't have anything to do with the job or working for you or our intimacy. Bran's mouth opened and closed, her eyes clouded with hurt, and it was killing him. Go on, the offensive is what his mind is thinking. Same back at you. Name one thing you like about me that doesn't have to do with your job, working for me, or boom boom. I can name 100. I like the way you laugh. I like the way you smile at me when you don't even know I can see you. I like how you tune in you are with everything that goes on around your ranch. I like how you care and concern and show animals. I like the care and concern you showed for me, and I like when I was just your employee, then we became so much more. I think it's cool that you like to tie flies and you love to fish, and I'm glad you're not addicted to sports 24/7. He wasn't expecting that. Here's a newsflash. I absolutely do not care one way or another if you have money, but I do care that you didn't tell me, and it really makes me mad that you think throwing that fact out there would somehow make a difference in how I feel about you. Instead of demanding to know exactly how she felt about him, why do you think I didn't tell you? Let me think. Because I might have had designs on your money? Wrong again, sweetheart. I don't believe you're about some damn gold digger. I haven't told anyone about my inheritance from my grandparents. None of my friends have a freaking clue. That's even sadder yet, Bran. And why is that? They've been your best buds for how long? Your whole life? And if you can't trust them, how did you ever hope that I could trust me? It's not the same thing, Harper. She shook her head in disagreement. Yes, it is, although I could understand why you didn't tell us. You have serious trust issues, cowboy. So do you, he fired back. I do not. I gave you every bit of my trust, and I'm not just talking about the bedroom. But you didn't trust me enough to tell me about the Bailey joining the army and breaking your heart. Why do you think I drove out there that morning? To talk to you. But Les... Now they were getting somewhere. Les had said some things he shouldn't have, and I didn't say the things I should have. But I want you to know why you didn't tell me about the one thing that mattered, the one thing that made you decide to stay in Muddy Gap. Because I didn't know it at the time. And when you figured it out, why didn't you share the information with me? Because I hadn't heard one word from you, Bran. No phone call, no nothing. The job was over. I didn't think you cared. Bran loomed over her. Bullcrap. You know I care. My damn cell phone and bet my business end of the shovel. When I told Bailey about it is when She didn't tell you I stopped by, did she? So we're going through 3, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. It says to keep reading, but we'll see what happens. My voice may give out before then. No, but it doesn't matter now. Yes, it does. You are more to me than a damn employee. You knew that as soon as you found out you were hiding up here. I'd come for you. I'd chase you down like you were always hoping I'd do, and then I'd bring you back where you belong. Which is where? With me. And here's a news flash for you. I didn't get a chance to talk to you about this stuff the morning after your karaoke win because Les showed up. Then you were gone damn near 3 days. When you finally came out to the ranch, you let me believe that you only cared about your paycheck. Understanding was dawning now in her eyes, but... Gosh darn it, Harper, I wanted to tell you how I felt about you, but you deserve to hear it in private, not in front of Les. Harper mumbled something about excuses. Bran curled one hand over her hip and around the side of her beautiful face and took the biggest chance of his life. No more excuses. I love you, Harper Masterson. I love everything about you. Did she throw herself into his arms and sob that she loved him too? Did she kiss him with the fire and sweetness that he craved? No. The damn woman stepped back and said, "Prove it." "What? I just told you I love you, and now you want me to prove it?" "Yes." "Well, I'm here, aren't I?" The golden brown eyes spit fire. "Is that it, Bran? You've decided you love me because I'm conveniently nearby. What would have done if I moved to Laramie? Would you have tracked me down and dragged me back to where I belong? How the devil am I supposed to answer that?" "Let me know when you figure it out." She flounced off, flounced like a beauty queen in a snit, which she was. And this was done all wrong. Big surprise. "I'll be back, Harper. Mark my words. I will be back." Didn't know her my butt. He knew her backward, forward, inside out, upside down, sideways. He loved her. And yes, he had every intention of tracking her down and proving it. What a man. "How much longer are you going to make that poor man suffer?" Harper asked Janey. Janey asked Harper. Bran wasn't the only one suffering. She wondered how Bran would react when he learned that she had moved out, happy, indifferent, angry. Yeah, he'd been angry. She missed him. 3 months didn't seem like long enough time for him to figure out someone else, let alone if he loved him, but she loved Bran. She knew him, heart and soul straight down to the bone, and like Janey had reminded her, she deserved to know the depth the feeling of commitment was reciprocated. When she told him to prove it, she'd half expected that he would scoop her up in his arms and drag her off, keeping her captive until she admitted she loved him too. It was sort of Neanderthal tactics that she expected. So why was she disappointed that he hadn't reacted that way? 2 days after he left Split Rock in a huff, she feared he'd given up. She wondered if she'd been too hasty, too haughty. On the dawn of the 3rd day, when Harper convinced herself she ruined everything by pushing Bran into a corner, a van arrived in front of her trailer, a van filled with lilacs, every color of lilac imaginable. Deep amethyst, livid purple, lavender, pale pink, and creamy white. Every bouquet was in different colored, jewel-toned vase. Bran remembered her favorite flower earned serious brownie points. Yesterday morning, the same van delivered a dozen donuts, cream-filled Bavarian croissants covered in chocolate glaze, cake, donuts with pink icing, long johns, rainbow-colored sprinkles, pot of strong coffee. At noon, the van dropped off lunch. Crab cakes, fruit, sweet tea, key lime cheesecake. She hadn't known what to expect when the van returned. At supper time, steak, lobster, veal, pasta. Lifting the silver dome platter, warmed, revealed pepperoni pizza and champagne in a bucket, wine coolers. This afternoon, they'd been in bed talking about, laughing about, feeding each other pizza, drinking beer, ranked as one of their best times she had with him. At this point, Harper was willing to admit that he was taking her challenge seriously, but Bran wasn't done proving his proof. The morning, a gigantic package wrapped in gold foil had appeared on her doorstep. Inside it was a glass bottle in a beautiful shade of blue, topped with a silver filigree. As she touched it, she remembered the fondness for antique perfume bottles. The item at the bottom of the box said that the deal had sealed her fate. And then she understood that Bran did know her better than anyone ever had, better than anyone would ever. If he had come to her tonight, she would have gone to him. But Bran had shown up with a karaoke machine of all things. He unloaded the speakers and had been serenading her for at least the last 20 minutes. If you could call that sounds of coming from his mouth music, good Lord. He truly was an awful singer, but his willingness to put himself out there in front of her and in front of dozens of male workers in the compound proved his love. Well, it was time that she offered him proof, too. "Harper, seriously, go out there and talk to him or gag him. My ears are starting to bleed," Janey whined. Harper laughed and exited the trailer. The instant Bran saw her, the music stopped. "Thank God," he said. Hey, she said. "Nice selection tune. I particularly enjoyed your version of Conway Twitty's I'd Love to Lay You Down." "Really?" "No, not really." "So did you come out here to make a request? I've got a huge playlist. I can go all night," she murmured. "You certainly can." Bran seemed a little shocked by her innuendo, so shocked that he didn't make a single move toward her. She ambled closer to him. "Now I can say I told you so, because you did prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that you know me." And I ain't done yet. There's something else you asked me to do without naming what I like about you. It didn't have to do with you working or for me or boom boom." "Bran," he put a finger over her lips, "let me finish. I don't know if you figure this out yet, but I ain't exactly clever with words, especially not off the cuff, but that doesn't mean I can't do it. It just means I need to take my time to get the words right." She felt her chest constrict as he inhaled a deep breath, "so here it goes. I love that you're always humming. I love how you grin when you figured something out on your own. I love how you round up my coffee cups since I'm forever losing them or leaving them in the barn. I love it when you take off your hat and your hair sticks up all over the place and you don't even notice. I love that you speak your mind. I love that you've taken the calves and the cows and goats and horses. Hell, I even love how determined you are to feed them damn rabbits. Really? No, not really. Shoot. I love your unconditional love for your family. I love your devotion to the old gals who depend on you to get their nails done. I love that you can be all girly one second and elbow deep in manure the next. I love watching you eat donuts with impeccable manners, and I love how the fact your ladylike behavior disappears when you're chowing down on a plate of ribs. Okay. Says now we can go to page 344. I never knew my cowboy had such a silver tongue. She leaned forward and kissed him twice, but I'll take you, and I love you, Bran. And I love you so damn much, Harper. Now will you please come home with me? And she says, come home. And she's at her job and working on a tight deadline for 5 months. He says, I damn sure ain't gonna be without you for 5 months. That's sweet, but... And no buts. A contemplative look went into his eyes. How about moving his trailer there? Think Rainier will go for that? I ain't giving him a choice. Besides, I won't be needing the trailer at the ranch much longer anyway. Seeing Hank and Laney so happy in their own place made me want that for the same for us. Bran dug in his pocket and pulled out an old-fashioned skeleton key, a key identical to the one that he sent her earlier. I'm finally ready to fix up my grandparents' house, move into it, but only if you'll live there with me and help me make it a home, our home. And here I thought you were offering me the key to your heart. You already got that. You've had that for a while now. Just try to trust you enough to let you use it every day and forever. Hey, now what's with the tears? You don't think you know that I'm asking you to be my ranch hand, right? I'm asking you to be my wife. Well, you weren't exactly clear on the job description, Bran. And being your ranch hand was a good gig so far. You've been a great ranch hand, but you'll make an even better wife. Say you'll marry me, Harper. Yes, I'll marry you as long as you can wait a few more months to tie the knot. I've waited my whole life for a woman like you, and I'll wait a few more months. It ain't going to matter. And 5 months later, we find out they did, in fact, tie the knot. I'm not going to read every bit of this book to you like I originally planned. I want you to read some of this amazing book. You are not going to regret it. It is a page-turning book, but be a mature audience over the age of 18. And I would say this book was very sweet, even charming, but very off the charts with passion and desire. I enjoyed it so much. I know that you will too. And my rating for the book is a 20. She's becoming one of my favorite authors. This is my second book of hers that I've read. I think there's another book over here somewhere in my book pile that I have compiled that will be the third and final book of the Blacktop Cowboys. And I'm going to miss that series because it's been a very good novels. But anyway, this one will be going to the Candy Kitchen tomorrow. So if you're wanting this book, go up to Tuscola and it should be in their library wall. I don't look for it to last very long. It'll probably be off the charts, gone before you know it. Wonderful book.